So I made a video yesterday talking about how I don't think Grand Theft Auto 6 will get delayed again. It it got delayed again. This is coming directly from Rockstar Games' official Twitter account, and they say, "Hi everyone, Grand Theft Auto 6 will now release on Thursday, November 19th, 2026. We are sorry for adding additional time to what we realize has been a long wait, but these extra months will allow us to finish the game with the level of polish you have come to expect and deserve." Listen, man, I would be lying if I said that this wasn't slightly disappointing. And I'm not saying completely unprecedented. I can't remember back to Bully and Manhunt or whatever title from the PS2 era, the Warriors, but definitely since the PS3 era, GTA 4, Red Dead 1 into GTA 5, Red Dead 2. Like, I don't think they have delayed a game 3 times since maybe the PS2 era, which I don't even remember delays like that back then at all because they were releasing games so frequently back then. So I do think this is a little bit, this is unprecedented for them in my memory. And I'm not like raising the alarm bells to some crazy degree right now. I don't want to get on here and start being like, oh, we should fear a cyberpunk situation that could occur with Grand Theft Auto 6. Like, I think that's why they're continuously delaying it, because they're avoiding that situation at all costs. They don't release garbage. They've never released garbage. And it's a thing where you got to remind people, you dropped Red Dead 2. Red Dead 2 was your last game that you put out and is one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time. A lot of people believe it is one of the greatest games of all time. And it's a lot of the same team making this who made that. And so I'm not raising the red flag yet, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this is another delay added to the books. And it's kind of an apt comparison there, because you're seeing replies on Twitter where people are like, hey, I'm starting to kind of get a little bit of the cyberpunk feel here. And it's like, well, yeah, cyberpunk was delayed 3 times as well. A very big prominent release that was delayed 3 times and ended up, despite being delayed over and over and over again, it came out and was total, utter fucking dog shit. And then it got better a couple years later, and now it's like one of my favorite games of all time after years and years of patches and polish and making the game what it should have been at launch. And once again, I think Grand Theft Auto 6 is finished right now. I think they are just polishing the shit out of this thing. But, I can't, at this point, after another delay, I can't sit here right now and be like, yeah, well, there's no reason to be concerned whatsoever. There is some reason to be slightly concerned here. And it's funny, even just talking about Cyberpunk 2077, talking about CDPR and kind of thinking about the comparisons there, where the one comparison that you cannot draw is I don't think you get that same redemption arc as CDPR. If you put out bullshit on day one, it's not going to be no little engine that could style sympathy come back from behind. The little guy, they dropped this bullshit on our lap, and then a couple of years later, it's finally great the way it should have been at launch. Like, I don't think people are going to be sympathetic in the same way they were to CDPR, which they were. Obviously, it was brutal at launch, and they got the smoke as they deserved to get the smoke for releasing bullshit for full price. But over time, there has been this sort of collective, myself included, I'll throw myself into this pool here, but there has been a softening on CDPR for releasing such a horrible product for full price and like knowingly releasing garbage. And if Rockstar does that, my personal opinion, they will not get that same sympathy. Like, they won't see the redemption story 2 years later where people are like, oh yeah, well, they released something completely fucking broken at launch, and a couple years later, it became the game it should have been day one. Because, obviously CDPR, they launched The Witcher 3 in 2015, smash hit, but that was really their first big mainstream hit. You know what I mean? So there wasn't this, like, you weren't looking back at decades of great games and, like, no offense to CDPR, but they're not in that, they're not of that same caliber, that same legacy that Rockstar carries. So they're held to a different standard, as they should be. You know what I mean? You're talking about a game that is going to cost likely over $1 billion and took, I think some of the exaggeration is a bit overstated with how long the game took to make, but regardless of perception is reality, right? A lot of people are going to believe GTA 6 took 10 years or more to develop because they look at GTA 5 and they're like, well, it came out in 2013. Surely you've been cooking on GTA 6 for the last 10 years. And it's like, well, they, released Red Dead 2 in 2018, a lot of online shit that they were creating in the meantime. And so, but all of that is irrelevant. You just look at it on paper, 2013, November 2026. If you put out hot garbage on November 2026, people are going to be like, oh, a decade. Because, that was the same conversation with Cyberpunk. It was, what was Cyberpunk? Revealed in like 2012? At E3, just something absolutely fucking absurd. And years go by, the hype builds and intensifies more and more and more. And it's like, okay, well, here we are. Show us what you got. And they didn't have much to show. I'm really hoping that in the next couple months we can get like an actual gameplay trailer, something to show people, okay, this thing is, it's cooking up, it's coming along. They're just trying to calm the masses as much as possible after the delay. I don't even, like, from the reaction that I've seen so far, it doesn't seem like people are freaking the fuck out thinking that this is going to be complete trash. It's more so people being like, damn, this sucks. More so a collective feeling of just bummed out that it's getting delayed, more so than anything of people being outraged or anything. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some of that. It's the internet. You're always going to see some, at least a portion of that online, that reaction for the furthest extremes of the internet. But I think by and large, it's just a bummer. And like, even for me, this is definitely a little bit of a bummer. There's no doubt games galore coming out in 2026, but not of that caliber, not of that magnitude. And there's more expectation, there's more weight, but there's also more hype, anticipation. All of these things kind of collaborate to form this GTA 6 stew that we're waiting to, to get a bite of. And I think that you got to take the good with the bad in that equation. The expectations are probably too high for your game. The hype is at a level that is, there's nothing you could possibly do that is going to exceed expectations, because expectations are through the fucking roof. But at the same time, those expectations being through the fucking roof, like, let me pull this up for you real quick. I showed this yesterday in the video, but this is the fastest selling games of all time list. The top 10 fastest selling games of all time by IGN. And it's like, oh, well, hey, 1 and 2, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Cyberpunk 2077, and then Red Dead right there at number 4. And it's like, well, why is that? Because the hype is unfucking real. You know what I mean? It's the hype is what led to this mass of human bodies just waiting outside of stores to pick these games up, and it all goes hand in hand, and you got to show up to deliver. Once you've built that hype to that level, then it's like, yeah, it's on you to deliver. So I'm not gonna do the crying in the beers for a mega corporation to have expectations that the fan base wants them to hit. At the same time, I'm well aware I would not want to be in their position where the expectations are you have to create the greatest piece of media in the history of great media. Like, it's, yeah, I get it. I that is a ton of pressure that I definitely could not handle, but at the same time, they are going to be laughing to the fucking bank because you see, fastest selling games of all time. Cyberpunk right there is at number 2, second fastest selling game of all time. The game was complete dog shit at launch. But yeah, seeing a gameplay trailer right now, like a 3 minute, 2 minute and 54 second real gameplay trailer, legit gameplay with some long, like 20, 30 second uncut snippets of gameplay, real gameplay running. I think that would do a lot to alleviate a lot of the concern right now amongst the corners of the internet who are really, really pissed about this, because last time that was how it dropped as well. Remember, they did the delay, and then right after they dropped the trailer and the website update and all that. So that would kind of be my hope right now, is that they're preparing the marketing team to really get ahead of this before it becomes like some big conspiracy of, are they about to cyberpunk it? So, which once again, I don't think people are overreacting to that degree, but it's the internet. You know what I'm kind of the most curious about right now is that, okay, so this thing is pushed to November. So 2026, let's go through the lineup of games releasing in 2026 from Game Informer's website, because I think one of the big things you're going to see now is a lot of games are going to be flocking to May. Because if you look at the list right here, January's packed, February's packed, March is packed, April is packed, and then, hey, what happens here? No, I shouldn't say April is fucking packed. There's one game in April, but you get what I'm saying. Like there's releases for these different months, and then you get to May and there's absolutely nothing. Then you get to June, there's absolutely nothing. July, nothing. August, nothing. Then it's like September. Halloween, for some reason, announced that it's coming out in September. But it's interesting to me that I think that May window is definitely going to start filling out now that they know Grand Theft Auto 6 is no longer in that, it's no longer going to release in May. But I actually think that some of these titles that are set to drop early 2026 will probably push to May and delay their game for polishing reasons and stuff like that. Like I think that probably nothing here in February, like maybe Neo 3, but Neo 3 is probably ready to go. That's not, I doubt they would need to delay that. In March, Crimson Desert would be a good candidate, because I think that game is going to need all the polish that it can possibly get before it releases. But that was scheduled to come out in late 2020. I think that was scheduled to come out in 2024, late 2024, and then 2025 as well. So that thing has been cooking for a long, long time. But 007 First Light is another perfect candidate that I could see getting delayed to May or June. Because, like, once again, you have a large window that is opening up now where you have May you can launch inside of, June, July, August, September, and you're good. 007 will dominate any of those months unless, there's another consideration. You have stuff like Wolverine that is set to come out in 2026. Yeah, let's actually pull up this page, just the kind of broader list of 2026 games. Requiem RE9 is locked in. That ain't they're good to go. They're not going to need to delay that, I wouldn't imagine. They don't really delay much at all. Fable is one certainly that I could see taking. Well, no, I think Fable would probably be a holiday game. I think Fable was looking like a, November style game. I actually worry that we might not see that game at all. I worry that thing might just get canceled outright. I hope not. I really want to play that. But Onimusha, Way of the Sword. What is Onimusha's release date? Okay, yeah. So Onimusha doesn't have a specific release date yet, just a 2026 window. So that would be another one. Perfect, kind of spreading the field there with Capcom. RE9 launching early 2026. Put this in as your summer game. But they also have Pragmata to consider as well. Capcom has a big year coming up in 2026. But yeah, Wolverine for sure, because Wolverine was just slated for fall 2026 or late 2026. So I mean, that is a big worry there for Sony. You know, you might can get a win with Sorrows, delay Sorrows to May, and allow them more time to cook, but for Wolverine, that has to suck. Which I assume if they're saying fall, that's probably gonna drop. You need some real room to breathe. Like September would be great. You definitely don't want to put that thing. I guess it depends, right? It depends on the type of game that Wolverine is going to be. And from this trailer, the one trailer that we have of it that, you know, actually shows the game, it to me feels a little bit more linear coded than the Spider-Man games. Like this doesn't feel as, it doesn't to me indicate that they're trying to create some big open world just based solely around this trailer. You know, you're seeing more linear design or things that you would associate with a more linearly designed video game. So if it's going to be 15 hours, 16 hours in and out of your hair, then it's like, yeah, sure, launch it early October. That's not, there's no worry there, other than the time isn't the only concern. Money is obviously a concern as well. And if someone's like, okay, well, holiday season is coming up, obviously you got to buy the gifts for your family and do all the festivities, and you're looking at your budget and you're like, well, damn, I can only pick Wolverine or GTA 6. What I'm going to spend on myself, my own personal gift, it's like, I don't know, $140. And then that's the, oh my God, there's so many different things to consider here. I guess we should probably start thinking about price as well. Because as it was currently constructed, it looked like Grand Theft Auto 6 was on track to launch as a $70 game, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Where it would have been an outlier to launch at 80 or 7, anything above 70. It would have been like, okay, that's, you understand why it's a behemoth of a video game. And then you look at Mario Kart World and you're like, well, if you're $80, GTA 6 can get away with being $80. But now it's like, are we really betting by November of 2026 that publishers haven't adopted the new $80 trend for AAA standard edition releases? I think in my opinion, the one good sign that we have is The Outer Worlds 2, where Microsoft, they wanted that $80. But they saw that shit was making no motion at $80. There was nobody biting at $80 for that game. So they were like, well, due to market conditions, we're bumping back down to $70 for The Outer Worlds 2. And it's like, ugh, just such an egg on your face moment. And it's such a bummer because I think a lot of that controversy just caught The Outer Worlds 2 in the crossfire. Like, that game is really good. The Outer Worlds 2 is fucking dope. I loved that game, but there was so much negativity around it due to Microsoft's business moves and just inconsistency and indecisiveness and just kind of weird behavior with that game. And that was just the game that they did all their experimenting with, and unfortunately harmed that game irreparably, in my opinion. Like that game definitely suffered because of that. And I think that with all that said, it was kind of good news, in my opinion, where when they walked it back, when they walked the Outer Worlds 2 price point back, I think that scared off a lot of other publishers. And they were like, oh, well, if they're pulling back and they're seeing that the market isn't responding to the $80 AAA game, then we're pulling back as well. Like, there's a couple franchises that could get away with it. Pokemon, of course. Call of Duty, of course. You do that with Call of Duty, but they're not even doing it with Call of Duty. So I think something was suggesting to them, like they had some data that was suggesting that you're more likely to make more money at $70 by getting more people in the door and then, milking them on the back end through microtransactions and DLC and all that shit. So it's awful to say that's what I'm hoping for, but I'm kind of hoping that that was the, the data that they received, that these big publishers received, was like, yeah, we're going to end up making more money long term by just releasing this thing at $70. So, but November of 2026, like I can't say I'm confident anymore. I was genuinely confident. If it released in May, I was damn near, I would have bet money on it that game was gonna be no more than $70. I would not make that bet right now, which is a real fucking bummer. Dude, I just thought of something else. My brain's going a million different directions with this announcement. GTA 6 will not be eligible for Game of the Year in 2026. Let's make sure I'm correct on this, but like, I think the cutoff is like November 14th. Let's type in, when is GOTY cutoff? When is GOTY cutoff? Mid to late November each year. Okay, late November. For example, the cutoff for the 2024 awards was November 22nd, 2024. Okay, so it's interesting. Very, very fucking interesting. So it would just barely be squeezing in to be eligible to be nominated for Game of the Year. See, but that is super interesting, where if you look at the Game Awards, the official YouTube page, when they did their nominee announcement, that was on November 18th, 2024. So this saying that the cutoff was November 22nd, 2024. I guess, yeah, critics get games early, but that, I don't know, man. That seems a little bit funky to me. So, I mean, this is very much in that limbo period, which I don't know. I mean, the critics who are voting on it will most likely have Grand Theft Auto 6. Like, if the game comes out on, what was the date that they delayed it to? November 19th? Yeah, so it was delayed to November 19th. So critics will probably have this game first week of November, but you also got to consider that a lot of people who are voting at these, like, you can only assign one reviewer to the game for most outlets unless you're a big dog like a IGN or a GameSpot or whatever. I don't even know if they get definitely their bigger outlets get multiple review codes, just maybe not assigning multiple reviewers to hit that embargoed review. But this is right there on that cutoff, which Rockstar likes them fucking awards. They obviously, at the end of the day, they want the money, but they like those fucking awards. And I don't think there has ever been a game that released the previous year, like, because they had Indiana Jones, which released late in December or sometime in December of last year, and I'm not expecting Indiana Jones to get nominated for the top 6 for 2025, which maybe it doesn't really even belong there. I could hear that argument out. But even when you look to something like Smash, when that came out in 2018, and 2019 was barren in terms of the games that were nominated. They're really, I mean, Sekiro, I think Sekiro is a deserving winner, but you could definitely make an argument that Smash should have took it that year. And then you had there was one more that I'm completely blanking on right now. Okay, yeah, I was thinking of Jedi Fallen Order in 2019, released late 2019, and then didn't get nominated in 2020. But yeah, you look at the field there for 2020, like, what would it have won, or what would have been moved out for Fallen Order to get in? Remake, Doom Eternal, TLU 2, I don't know, Tsushima, because Last of Us 1, right? So yeah, that wouldn't have been moved out. Hades was huge. 2020 was a stacked year. But anywho, I'm just saying words at this point. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. This is definitely a lot of thoughts hit my brain when I saw that delay announcement. And it's interesting. I know I got to wrap this shit up. I could go on forever with just the myriad of different branches that I'm thinking here. But like I think about games like Exodus, from Archetype, the ex BioWare team, and I think about the ex CDPR developers who are about to launch Blood of the Dawnwalker, and I think about a lot of these big games that have not officially confirmed their release date yet. So I I'm thinking like they haven't even confirmed a release windows, so I'm definitely thinking that those games are probably going to be in that blast radius of October to December ish titles. And it's like, fuck, what do? Do you just push? I guess you just push to 2027 and say better luck next year. But then it's like, do you push to 2027 for these fuckers to just delay their game to 2027? Whew. Whenever the big dog, and that's once again, that comes with the territory, right? When the big dog enters the room, a lot of oxygen leaves with it. So here's to you, GTA 6. Let's get that damn thing out in November. It's but at the same time, like I say that, at the end of the day, what's the fucking stupid ass quote that gets every time anything gets delayed? A delayed game is good, a bad game is a bad game, a good game is a who gives a fuck. I want the best game possible. So if that means a delay till May 2027, then I guess we'll be playing it in May 2027. But interesting. Very, very interesting. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And yeah, appreciate y'all. See you in the next video. I'm curious to see what people think about this. I'm very, very interested. I'll see you guys soon. Take it easy. Goodbye.